Hence why the Ethiopian Diasporas in Europe Public Diplomacy Network, which is a voluntary network that we have set up, also in collaboration with our great ambassadors in Europe. We have organized this event, this platform, to get the chance to get the up-to-date factual information from our representative of the Ethiopian government, who we have here as panelists. That's Ambassador Mulu Solomon, Ambassador Extraordinaire of Ethiopia to Federal Republic of Germany, Czech Republic, Republic of Poland, Slovak Republic, and Ukraine. Dr.Tsegaye Degineh, a renowned economist specialist, Ethiopian from Germany. And Vincent Den Hengst, who's a Dutch anthropologist from Geneva, Switzerland, who will be joining us as panelists to answer the different questions with different points of views and different information that they also can provide us with their area of expertise or also their experiences. To answer some of the open questions and help us understand what is unclear, as well help us learn and find ways to build then the better tomorrow. My co-host was Dr. Tsegaye Degineh from Germany. By the way, I forgot to also introduce our main technical lead and also part of the organizing team, Tashale Shibashi from Czech Republic, as well me being Feven Elias, who will be co-hosting this event for you tonight from Germany. Dr. Tsegaye, you can unmute.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Do you all hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, and welcome to this event, which will be an interesting event in order to provide the different aspects of Ethiopia's current hot issues from different perspectives, from the government's perspective, from externals perspectives, and also from diaspora perspectives. We are going to explore a couple of issues like the transformation, the GERD issue, and also the current situation of the peace and law enforcement. So I'm going to begin. Yeah, it's my pleasure that you are all here, so I have to thank. And I'm going to begin with the first questions on the transformation which is taking place currently in Ethiopia, which was started nearly 3 years ago, and going to its background, why this transformation occurred in the first place. And I would like Ambassador Mulu to give us the opening and also the government's perspective of this transformation taking place and the issues associated with it, like the background of what TPLF was doing in those times and why the Ethiopian people demanded that change, and what is currently going on from economic and the mindset point of view.
I was very much tired of the suppressive leadership which is dominated by TPLF because of the human rights issues, human rights violation, and the discrimination of all sorts. Then the reformist government came to power. After that, the reformist government was really doing a great job in making legal reform, social and economic reform. I can mention a few of them because there was a lot of people released, especially political prisoners, journalists were released, political exiled parties were invited to come and compete freely and also peacefully. Not only that, there was some legal conditions which were very suppressive. For example, civil society law and also law of terrorists was revoked, and land-breaking economic reforms were implemented. Though the government was doing a great job, the TPLF, who lost the power from the top, were not happy. Then they started defaming the government, even though the government has done a great job, especially in peace condition, making peace in the country and in the Horn of Africa. And which was very exemplary is that there was a peace condition between Eritrea and Ethiopia, which the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed received a Nobel Peace Prize, which he deserved well. But even though a lot of great achievements were recorded, the TPLF continue to create and also plan and implement conflict, violence throughout the country except Tigray. And a lot of people, like 1,500, were killed in 1 year. And in collaboration with OLF Shane, a lot of conflicts, destruction of investments, and others were done. Because of that, the government was very tolerant. They have ignored a lot of constitutional issues. If I raise, when the COVID was a problem in our country, like it had been in the world, the current government was forced to extend the election. The process was perfectly done according to the Ethiopian constitution. When there was an opening of law, it was interpreted by the House of Federation. Then the government was allowed to extend the term. When the government extended the term, TPLF officially announced to form a transitional government. This was unconstitutional. Again, they make a legal election. When they make this legal election, the House of Federation didn't consider it legal. It was considered null and void. Then the TPLF was claiming to conduct war and trying to make so many illegal conditions. All this was tolerated. All killings were tolerated, and the government peace concerns like women, mothers peace group, religious peace group, and other who are interested in peace all went to Tigray and tried to bring the TPLF to peace, to table to talk and bring the country to peace. Because they couldn't accept our togetherness as a country, our unity and diversity as a country, they continue doing so many evil conditions. Finally, they attacked the Northern Command Post, which is a National Defence Force, which was stationed in Tigray for more than 20 years. And they not only attacking, they brutally killed the soldiers and also robbed military weapons, and also boasted through their television, through their media, that they are going to destroy the country. And they sent missiles to Eritrea, to Gondar, to also Bahardar and other parts. That's how the government was forced to go into law enforcement operation to retake the robbed military weapons, and also to bring the country to peace and stability, to also bring the country to contain the law and order of the country and the peace of the society. If the government has not done this, the way they started to make the whole region a hotspot of terrorism, and they would have created a lot of big problem. But thanks to the to National Defence Forces and the Ethiopian government, try to bring this to peace, try to control the issue on time. That's how it started. If you allow me, I can explain this issue up to the current situation. Because after this law enforcement operation was successfully completed in short time, the government continued to rebuild Tigray, because when they are defeated and escape, they destroy all the critical infrastructures like bridges, road, telecommunication, electricity, airport, bank, police stations, so on and so forth. The government continued to rebuild the destroyed infrastructure. Not only that, they also released more than 10,000 criminal prisoners who are now, even today, hiding in the pockets with armament, and others which are not captured, we didn't give their hands, also are still hiding in pockets and try to hamper humanitarian support or humanitarian aid. The government has continued to rebuild Tigray and also to look for these criminals to bring them to justice. As you know, the Ethiopian government has covered more than 4.1 million people, needy people, with humanitarian assistance, which is 70% covered by Ethiopian government, and also 30% with international community and NGOs. Also, they have managed to handle the refugees which were in Tigray, trying to build refugee camps, opening schools in the camp, and also creating tracking systems the government has done day and night to manage. And also, since there was a lot of pressure to open up, the journalists were reporting from Tigray even from the start. But now, unfiltered or unhindered mobility and unfiltered access is given for humanitarian assistance, for journalists, and also for independent investigators for the claims or allegations of human rights. Ethiopian government strictly believe in human rights respect, and if there is anyone who has abused or violated human rights, will be taken to properly to court, and clear and strict measures will be taken. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, in cooperation with other independent human rights commission like UN and African Human Rights Commission, they will investigate, and it will be taken care of accordingly, according to the law. That's what's going on at the moment. Regarding other issues, GERD and Sudan and others, as you said, as you mentioned initially, we can discuss in due course after our friends or colleagues give you some issues. Any points which are not covered, I'll come back to it if you give me a chance later on. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. And I would like to ask this same question to Dr. Tsegaye Degineh, so that he can give us the view of his personal view, as well as the perspective of the diaspora, the Ethiopian diaspora, in view of the transformation which is taking place currently, and the understanding of what the TPLF is and its background, and why this transformation came into existence in the first place. And also, as an economist, I would also like you to give us an economic perspective and of this transformation. And thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the chance. I don't want to repeat what Her Excellency said. I will concentrate on some additions or some more about economic and mindset transformation. Some additions. Prime Minister Abiy, what we shall not forget, appointed a cabinet in which half of the posts are held by women. Ethiopia has been named a model country for the role of women in Africa. Ethiopia's parliament approved in East Africa the first ever female president, the first president of Supreme Court, the president of the election board is also a female. I mean, you will not find such kind of reform of women's integration even in highly developed countries in a short time. We should not also forget the Green Legacy program that has been a great success for sustainability. We have 350 million trees, and even if 10% of the trees grow, that is a milestone in Ethiopia. Coming to economic issues, Ethiopia introduced initiative macroeconomic structural and sectoral reforms that are stated to be a path as a way for job creation, poverty reduction, and inclusive growth. This initiative gives a special emphasis to sectors such as agriculture and manufacture, I think mining and tourism also. When you come back to the landscape of Ethiopian economics, we will have more than 85% of labor force is working in agriculture, rural areas, and 80% of agricultural land is used for the production of cereals. Despite the huge availability of fertile land, the amount of resource in Ethiopia is not able sufficiently to feed 110 million population. When we come here to Germany after World War, a farmer in Germany was able to feed 10 people, and today one farmer feeds 140 people. We have currently 1.5% of the farmers in Germany feeds 82 million inhabitants, and besides world third largest export. The reason in Ethiopia is low infrastructure, backward technology, irrigation facilities, and not well undefined property rights that resulted in scarcity of land. I think now is a time transformation, agricultural transformation, what is focusing to improve the life and the agricultural sector. We have in Ethiopia a big informal sector. We call it the shadow economy. In urban centers of Ethiopia is very high, which is difficult to have data survey on it. It is also very difficult to start for the last 27, 30 years with a small scale business because of the high transaction cost and the taxations, as well as lack of incentives. I remember at the beginning, the Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy, has opened up more privatization of major public sectors, including telecom, railway, shipping lines, and so on. It is a good step. Still, the inflation is getting very high despite this economic measure, which is also accelerated through economic and social effects of COVID-19. We have in Ethiopian resulted the last 3 decades, the black market and the capital flow of the country. It is another problem. There has been accumulation of wealth within a few organizations that have used the system to their advantage. And such kind of accumulation should not be happen again. I mean, that we should not to relearn that such kind of as a way of monopoly exists in Ethiopia. It is also, I emphasize, different kind of models of ownership. When privatization means not only to sell to foreigners or to those who have money, but to those employers also. When we look, Huawei is not a public company, and in fact, it's owned by the employers. They have their share and very effective because of a lot of incentives, and that's what I think. I think concerning mindset, I'm not, hopefully I have enough time. Concerning mindset, it is very important to have not only institutional change, but also transformative leadership through mindset change. The mindset change at the institutional level, we have seen a lot of weakness, a high level of corruption, weak governance. Resistance to change, a problem with modern project management skills, and the lack of creativity and motivations. So, I was in Ethiopia a couple of times, and I noticed we need a work culture, a work ethics, compliance, and integrity progress. We need a kind of diversity and inclusion that apply to have to understand age, gender, multi-ethnicity, language, disability, religion plays a big factor. All in all, I noticed we need agile work culture. We need an understanding of mistake culture. Leadership is an example of accepting mistakes. Mistakes indicate that something has been forgotten and that we can do better. I remember a couple of days, Chancellor Merkel drops Easter COVID shutdown plan, and she calls the idea as a mistake and apologized to the Germans. So to conclude my point, I have also seen a new generation that are creative, ready to take social and institutional accountability, who are accept criticism and ready to work with the people who think not in the same way. I think we have a good start in a new generation also in Ethiopia who can resist the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tsegaye, for this nice insight. I would, I will come to the follow-up questions later, but I would like to first give the chance to Vincent, and so that he can share with us. He is an anthropologist, as Fabian already mentioned, the anthropologist perspective of this transformation, the challenges that the transformation is facing, and the benefit this transformation is bringing, and with some of the lists that Dr. Tsegaye has already mentioned. Vincent, thank you.
Yeah, indeed. I wanted to add to that, Dr. Tsegay. On top of being an anthropologist, Vincent is also our voice from the international community, so to say. So we also would like him to use the foreigner's point of view in his answers.
Yes, thank you very much for the two other speakers for the eloquent elaboration of the transitional situation we are seeing in Ethiopia. As an anthropologist, I have been one time in Ethiopia. That was quite some time ago when I did my master's thesis study in Gondar. So it's not so far from Tigray, but it's in the Begamber part of Amhara region. After that, I've been 3 times in Ethiopia. So you have a little bit of perspective that how I know Ethiopia from the ground. And also I would like to say I rely mostly for my current ideas about Ethiopia on Western and Ethiopian media in English, Ethiopian media in English, and Western media in my language is Dutch from the Netherlands, sometimes a little bit French in some other countries. And also I hear from my wife, who is Ethiopian, and from people in our network, information about Ethiopia. This is important to explain and to tell you. So I would never say that I'm a specialist of Ethiopia when I'm amongst Ethiopians. But when I'm amongst non-Ethiopians, they would easily say Somalia is also Ethiopia, or isn't that country Eritrea? So there's a big gap which should be bridged. And I think I will take on now that I think in the West, what I've seen and what came to my conclusion from what came to my information from the Western media is that the change in Ethiopia when the Prosperity Party came to the power in Ethiopia, it was received well. I think there were even my aunt, for example, who don't know maybe much about Ethiopia. She knew he was young and he was the same as my age, Dr. Abiy Ahmed Ali, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And I think there's a lot of things in this news in the beginning which were explained quite all right, with a little bit of context about what happened in the last 30 years. And with the epithet of that was the Nobel Peace Prize for the peace in the region, and in the same media articles you read at that times was the great things Abiy's administration was doing. So as Ambassador Mulu was already explaining very, very well. And then after that, soon, there was not so much information. And so the last year, you see a little bit more into the narrative in the West, that there is more information about and a party who was formerly the ruling party coming in the arena in Ethiopia as being a more or less equal party. So that's the Western media as I see it from with a helicopter view, which amazed me quite much, because I think there was a lot of information that I had from the Ethiopian news, and also some deeper knowledge in Western articles, which were not so quite spread common, or commonly widespread. That it was actually an antagonistic building up against the leadership of the Prosperity Party. And I think that is very important to understand for Western media and people in the West, that there is no real equality between a regional party who is using also, how can I say that correctly, is using actually a reactive stance against national policy, which in part also would apply for the regional situation that was now, let's say, nearly neglected in the West, which gives a disbalance between Ethiopian people in the West or in Ethiopia when they hear the news, and Western people. Because Ethiopians in the West, they have of course, an advantage that they know much about Ethiopia and they know about the West. So they can make this balance themselves. And I have not really an idea how they communicate with Western people who do not know much about Ethiopia. But I can imagine that maybe some of the other panelists could explain it a little bit, or people can think for themselves. I can imagine there is some disbalance, and that can lead to some miscommunications. So what I've seen, how I balance it, is that the Ethiopian news is much more informative and also much more clear about what is happening. And also I want to do right to the situation by saying that there's much more balanced Ethiopian news than in the West. What's the reason behind it? That's maybe also something to discuss later. And I'm just very interested about how other people think about that. But I think it has got historical reasons, because of the West has had, of course, ties with the former TPLF, EPDRF government. And of course, there's a lot at stake. So that's one thing. And what can I add? I think it's very important also to conclude. I could say much, but I would really love to give some credit also to the patience the Ethiopian government has with Western institutions, and I listed it all, but I'm not going to name it because I will be talking too long. How many mistakes there have been made by providing information in the West, and I think it's more. I don't know what it is exactly, but I think to my last sentence, I think it has to do with that. There are a lot of Western medias and institutions and even governments, they don't know much about Ethiopia. So I think there's a goal for them to listen more to Ethiopian people, who have knowledge in specific fields, and also for specialists from the West to know about non-Western societies, like anthropologists. For example, my professor, my former professor, my former tutor, Dr. Jon Abink. So thank you.
ለናት ኢትዮጵያ ታጥቄ ጠንክሬ የምሰዋላት ነኝ እኔ ስላገሬ ጠላቶቿን እቃወማለሁ አጥብቄ በብርቱ